nsight.media with Nate Records.
And greetings, my friends. I am your host, Nate Rakowitz. This is nsight.media, episode number 2, a show about insights in the media industry from the perspective of yours truly, Nate Rakowitz. That's the N in Insight. And I've got a great show for you today. We've got the co-founder and chairman of RMT in studio with us, talking with us about Donald Trump. That's right, Bill Harvey, the legend himself from the advertising industry, media and entertainment industry, is here today to talk with us about driver tags, the psychographics that make up both those that are supporters of Donald Trump and those that are very pessimistic about the prospects of him in the United States of America here. So we've got some really fascinating insight. He's going to be talking with us about that, about the upcoming ARF conference that's taking place next week here in New York City, where he will be on the main stage talking driver tags, talking with Simmons, talking about a ton of stuff, looking to maximize ROI. All right, so I am so excited today to welcome to nsight.media the co-founder and chairman of Research Measurement Technologies Incorporated, also known as RMT. Bill Harvey is in studio with us today. How are you, Bill?
I'm great, Nate. How about you? We've got this great snowstorm going on outside.
I know. There's nothing like doing a podcast in the middle of a blizzard.
Hopefully neither of us will lose power.
That's right. That's right. So let's. I'm very excited to jump into this, though, with you today. So Bill Harvey is somebody who is very, very well known across the media and entertainment industry, as well as the advertising industry. He's the recipient of the Irwin Efron Demystification Award from the ARF, one of the most prestigious awards in the advertising research industry. And I'm honored to be working with him here at RMT. And today we're going to be talking about how driver tags bring insights to Trumpism, if you will. Donald Trump, as our president of the United States, obviously is somebody who has drawn strong opinions on either side. And Bill Harvey has done a really incredible study here on both sides, both the optimistic folks as well as pessimistic folks as it relates to Donald Trump. So, Bill, I'd love for you to kind of introduce this study, the work that you've done here with Simmons, and talk with us about your upcoming article, A House Divided Against Itself Cannot Stand.
Sure. My pleasure. The genesis of this came from, as you know, years of work developing driver tags, which are meta tags placed on programs. And because of these driver tags, we're able to infer a viewer, what his or her psychology is based on simply knowing their viewing behavior. So with set-top box data, which is how we develop the driver tags, or with surveys like Simmons does, measuring what programs people watch, we were able to back into these 265 driver tags. The connection to Simmons, and Simmons and I will be presenting this at the ARF Rethink Conference next week in New York. Simmons, for whom I also personally consult as a strategic advisor, at my behest, did a recontact of its 25,000 national probability sample respondents on whom it collects 60,000 attributes, brand usage, and TV viewing by program, and lots of other stuff.
Wow.
I asked them to measure another 700 psychographics that I had collected or distilled from literature reviews over a period of years, staying on top of what are the latest, greatest findings from brain research and everything else. So 700 additional, they already had almost 700. Now they went back and from a sample of over 3,000 of their 25,000 people, for which they had all their other data, they got this new 700 psychographics. So one of the new psychographics was a pessimism-optimism scale about Trump. So the first thing that I noticed by looking at their findings was that the people who characterize themselves as very pessimistic about Trump, about 25% of the population, people who characterize themselves as very optimistic about Trump, about 19% of the population. When you add those together, that's almost half the population. So almost half the population is at the polarity points on this Trumpism scale, which I don't think anybody needed a survey to realize because it's been pretty obvious. But the things that we found out from the driver tags are fascinating. The way they kind of fell into line, and they found the obvious truth by this mechanism is amazing to me. Of course, driver tags have been validated over and over. Every time I'm amazed. But if you look at the values, there's different types of driver tags, and one subset is values, human values. Mm-hmm. If you look at the values of the people who are very pessimistic about Trump, the top three values are benevolence, pacifism, and good manners. When you look at the highest values of the people who are very optimistic about Trump, it's quite different. It's independence, being uninhibited, and being frugal.
That is interesting that those pop out because they certainly run along different lines of the spectrum here. I mean, being frugal in contrast to pacifism, those are very different types of values that are exposed, neither good nor bad, just different values.
Yeah, and what struck me immediately is that Americans and maybe human beings share all six of these values. And maybe what we have here is a difference in degree, not so much a sharp divide as it seems. I mean, it seems like we're almost in a civil war situation between these groups. But, that could be simply exacerbated by the heat of the election campaigns, dirty politics, media exploiting the ratings potential of the very interesting Trump, who's his uniquely uninhibited behavior is fascinating on television. To both those who like him and don't like him. So benevolence. I'm sure that benevolence is held as a high value by those who are optimistic about Trump too, but not in their top three.
It seems like it's a measure of weighting that people place on these values, and what you're suggesting is those that are very pessimistic about Trump tend to place a lot more weight on benevolence, pacifism, and good manners, whereas those that are very optimistic about Trump tend to place more weight on independence, being uninhibited, and being frugal.
Yeah. Now, if you move on to another subcategory of driver tags, traits, the number one trait among those who are very pessimistic about Trump is spiritual.
That's interesting because so many of those that are optimistic about Trump tend to be people, or at least in the media portrays them as people that are kind of the very conservative, ultra-religious people. Yet what you're saying is that this value of spirituality is very strong among those very pessimistic about Trump.
Yeah, it is surprising because, as you say, the fundamentalism weight is more towards the pro-Trump side of the scale. And of course, fundamentalism is an important aspect of spiritual life. But look at what happened on the other side, though. For those who are very optimistic about Trump, they may be very spiritual too, but that wasn't their number one trait that popped. The number one trait that popped is demand what you deserve. Demand what you deserve.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the most. In fact, spiritual didn't make the top four. I'm looking here, or the top five. Didn't make the top five.
Very surprising, especially since what the media portrays as those that are supportive of Trump. You do tend to see the fundamentalism. So maybe the media could be off on what it is that they're picking up there in terms of the traits associated with those that are both optimistic and pessimistic about Trump.
That's a good point because we could help inform the conversation that's going on about Trump in the media by adding many more attributes than they are considering. Another subcategory is how do these people feel? Now, this is we're measuring January 2017. That's when the Simmons survey was done. Mm-hmm. What we get about the people who are very pessimistic about Trump and where they were at in January 2017 is sad. And the people who are very optimistic about Trump, you'd expect they'd be simply happy or glad. But rather than that, what we get is stoic.
Stoic, interesting.
Yeah, like kind of attempting to be impassive and strong no matter what happens.
Yeah. Very, very ultra confident and kind of above the fray.
Yeah. And then what does each of these groups do in terms of quality time? Those who are very pessimistic about Trump, the thing that came up number one was self-improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And those very optimistic about Trump, the thing that came up strongest was fond memories.
Fond memories.
Reliving the past. Yeah.
So that's along the lines of Donald Trump's slogan of "Make America Great Again," because they have fond memories from the past.
Exactly, the nostalgia about where we were once, and can we be there again? And,
sure.
And the strong desire to do that. And then the last of the 5 driver tag subsets, program qualities. We picked the top 2 here because out of this entire analysis so far, we haven't seen any common ground. No place where we could try to unify something that's broken apart.
Yeah.
But here we have found one. So first, the ones that don't match. Program qualities strong among those who are very pessimistic about Trump. Programs that touch the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are very optimistic about Trump, programs that are energizing.
Interesting.
Yeah. And now the common ground. The common ground is activating. Both those very pessimistic and those very optimistic about Trump. The one thing in the analysis where they're on common ground is that they both, they're kind of activists, you might say. They want to be influenced, inspired, and moved by TV programs they watch. Therefore, you might say they're also willing influenceables, people that you'd want to advertise to. They could be persuaded. They are almost half the population. They want input that changes them.
So, I mean, it's obvious from this that of the people that are most pessimistic and most optimistic, they care. They care about that, and I think that's a key finding here is that both sides really are passionate about doing the right thing, even though the values that they place their weights on may be different. Yeah,
and that's where the common ground is, I think. And if your podcasts or my blog posts or any number of stimuli could possibly get a conversation going that would work on, with some clear reasoning and without rancor, there could be reasons for national reunification.
That would be wonderful, especially given all the divisiveness that's been going on, and that nearly a quarter of people are very pessimistic, and a quarter of people, or 20%, are very optimistic. Really speaks to how divided things really are. And I think that your study here, using the driver tags to discover the common ground of activating being a thing here, and that the values that people place on the optimistic side of independence, uninhibited, being frugal. I think if people just understood what those values were that they put their weight on, you could have a conversation about that as civilized people. Right.
And all we have to do is be adult about it and follow parliamentary procedure, so to speak, and civility, common civility.
Wow. So I'd love to dig into some details here on the driver tags and the methodology that you use to come to these insights. But I think this is just one use case, if you will, or one example of how the driver tags can be used to draw insight from various psychographics. In this case, one psychographic done from the Simmons research study of pessimism versus optimism on Trump. But like you said, that study that you did with Simmons didn't just cover this one question. It covered tons of questions, hundreds of questions. And I know you've referred to this study as being perhaps the biggest study on psychographics of U.S. citizens that's ever been conducted. I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more on that.
Happy to. So if we go back in